was specifically created for the patients that Dr. Brenner and I help through explant so they can heal
So,
after their
yeah.
surgery.
So let's get into that. There is a cultural desire just to look better
Yes.
for guys, for women, whatever.
Right.
Breast implants have been around for a long time. Long time.
Yeah. Long time.
I didn't realize that there was a serious safety issue with breast implants for about 5 years ago. I've been in practice over 10 years. I've been in the natural health field for 15 years. I had no idea. And then one of my friends, his name is Dale Brown. He's from Clarksville. Called he's got a Instagram. It's at the Wild Doc, and his wife started feeling really funky and sick, and so she got hers out recently. But she's been sick for a while. And so, what does this mean? Explant. How do you know that you are having problems? And then specifically, like what's your story? Like, how did you get into this place where you're helping women actually pull them out instead of putting them in?
Breast implants have been around for a long time, like about 50 years, I think, since the first ones came on the market.
Yeah.
Breast implants are used for a few different reasons, right? Women use them cosmetically just to augment, enhance what they already have.
Right.
But women also use them, right, for reasons like for breast cancer,
Yeah.
to reconstruct after double mastectomy.
Right.
But another purpose and why I use them that maybe people don't realize is for breast deformities, which I had. So for someone like me,
Okay.
and I got them in my 20s, I didn't do a lot of research
Gotcha.
because I didn't plan on getting them. It was not something that like a lot of women I hear from every day. Oh, I always wanted these. I looked into it for years. It
Yeah.
was my dream to have them. This was not my dream to have them.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do a lot of research, I have to say. And I hear that a lot. And I don't beat myself up for that. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
But so I got them to correct an issue, and they did that for me. And that is why I actually got into plastic surgery. I never dreamed of working in the field.
Yeah.
But when I got them, I thought, I want to help other women to
Okay.
feel confident and to feel good. And so I went into it with the best interest at heart.
Right.
Um, and so I was already in the beauty industry, working in the day and spa industry. And so this just made perfect sense.
Yeah.
My father had been a doctor, and so that was kind of fun for me working in the medical field. So it's ironic, but then I started working in plastic surgery and even selling this medical device.
Okay.
I will say, in hindsight, the only thing I will say I'm disappointed in myself is I didn't research what I was selling to people. I had no idea that this medical device that I not only put in myself, but I was selling to others, I had no idea the chemical makeup of the shell of the implant.
Okay.
When I got these implants, actually, silicone, and this is now 30 years ago, because this is now January of 2022. It's the 30th anniversary of the moratorium on breast implants. For a period of time, silicone implants were actually pulled from the market. You couldn't have silicone implants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of this big Dow Corning lawsuit, because there were a lot of ruptures at the time.
Okay.
Women were getting sick.
Okay.
Yes. Ruptures were part of that. It was a big issue. But women were also sick because of breast implant illness, which is what we'll talk about because that's what I had. But that term maybe wasn't used at the time for whatever reason. We didn't correlate that at the time.
Really, I mean, would you say most women don't know that their autoimmune funkiness or just sickness is caused by what's in their body? Like, they have no idea, right?
Well, I mean, this is again why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it took me 7 years to figure it out, and I work in the industry.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I would imagine that other women don't know. I never planned on speaking out about this. I found out and explanted within 3 weeks of figuring it out.
Yeah.
And when I was recovering and reading in these support groups, all of these women saying, gosh, I went back to my surgeon and he said, you should have known. You should have known that these cause autoimmune illness. You should have known that your hormones were going to be disrupted. I thought, now, wait a minute. I can speak from experience. In these consults, we don't tell women that it's going to cause autoimmune illness if
No.
you have underlying conditions. We don't tell women it's going to disrupt your hormones. That's like going to buy a car and saying, well, just so you know, the engine's going to drop out at 5,000 miles. Why would you tell somebody something like that?
I
We
agree.
need
Yeah.
to be more transparent.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you do. And so that's why there's a need for better informed consent. And that's more than just having a patient sign a bunch of documents they might not be reading
Yes.
thoroughly. It's a conversation, it's several conversations. So the patient really understands what they're getting themselves into.
Because it's a serious procedure. I mean,
Yeah.
we're serious, and these things are supposed to be in for life, right? I mean, they're once you get them, the expectation is that you weren't going to take them out. Is that right?
But that's another thing, because I know, again, depending on who you ask, one of the surgeons that I worked for, who was primarily a breast surgeon, I asked, and his attitude was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now you talk to a lot of surgeons who say, and the manufacturers say, every 10 years. But now, if you had
Whoa.
said to me, you need to replace these now, understand, every 10 years for the rest of your life, and you're now in your 20s. Well, I don't know about you, but that's a major surgery every 10 years. Knowing what I know now, that's not great for your body to have a major surgery every 10 years.
No.
I don't want to have surgery every 10 years.
No.
The cost for some people would be exorbitant every 10 years. So all of these things, they can't even agree on communicating the same advice to patients. So there are a lot of things that we need to work on.
So the doctor that you work with now, you is not the doctor that put the implants in, correct?
No. I had them done in another state. Back in 2003, I got saline, like I said, because you couldn't even get silicone at the time.
Yeah.
Immediately, I got what's called capsular contracture in one of them, where one hardens.
Okay.
And so needed to be replaced.
Okay.
So the following year, I go to get them replaced, and my surgeon just happened to be on maternity leave. So I had to go to a different surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to be one that does a lot of studies and so forth. And so again, I thought I was making a really great decision.
Right.
Right. And he suggested, well, why don't you get silicone? And I said, oh, well, aren't they pulled from the market? And he said, oh, but they're coming back.
Oh.
Another irony. You're going to get the brand new to the market silicone implants.
And you were like, yes, that's awesome.
Well, I did at least say in my 20-0 self, well, isn't that bad? Isn't silicone bad? Well, no, they're new and improved. And they are made so thick, the shell now, because see, he was focusing on the ruptures.
Okay.
Not the fact that you could just get sick with no rupture, because my implants, when they came out, they weren't ruptured, but I still got very, very sick. And he said, you'd have to have a spear go through it in order for it to rupture. Okay. So, I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess don't know when that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, okay, if that's what you think, you're the expert.
Okay.
Silicone. And he said, and I'm actually even going to track you in a study. So if you have any symptoms that come up, we're going to know immediately.
Perfect.
I was never part of a study. Nobody ever followed up with me. And so I did start having some little hormonal things that I never even tied back. I started having insomnia.
How often, like how long? So they did the silicone, and
Mhm.
how long after did you start having symptoms, do you feel like?
I bet it was like a year. So it was enough time that had passed that I didn't even correlate it to
That's
the
right.
implant. Like I had forgotten about it. So it was enough time. I had a ruptured ovarian cyst, which again, you can't tie it to that, but like it's just too coincidental because I had never had these issues before. And it was enough that I did go to a gynecologist and I said, I'm having weird things happen and it doesn't. And I said, insomnia, ruptured ovarian cyst, night sweats.
Okay.
I'm only 20
Your
something.
hormones were crazy.
And they're literal. And so now I realize, I have been fighting and advocating for my health since my 20s. So now it's like 20 years of advocating for your health.
Cool.
And I hear these stories every day now. And the gynecologist, who was like the best again in the city that I went to, said, oh, no, that's your normal. And I said, well, no, it's not my normal. That's why I'm here. Because this is not normal. So
Totally.
again, but they're giving that same answer to women today. This is normal.
Yeah.
No, it's not normal to have perimenopausal symptoms at 20 something years old.
No, totally not. But women have been told that that's normal, that it's totally normal. And what you just need to do is maybe take some birth control.
I was just about to say that was going to be their next question. I was just told to go on birth control not too long ago for my, perimenopausal to come, which hasn't even come. And I just turned 48 and I'm still not perimenopausal. Right?
Wow, good for you. See, and that's how it's supposed to be, though. I think that's awesome. I have women come in 45. You're not supposed to be having those symptoms. And then I have what really breaks my heart, like it really gets up in my craw, is that 13-year-old girl that's having really bad acne, but she's got a horrible diet, or she's just got a lot of stress, and she's, she doesn't feel right, got terrible cramps. Doctor says, well, the only solution that happens, birth control. And so now we're pumping. That in the future this is going to cause some kind of issue, or even if you can't guarantee it, it might. And so why don't we do these lifestyle changes first? Sorry, I get a little bit fired up, especially when I talk about I've got a 13-year-old girl and I've got a 7-year-old girl, and I see the pressure that they are already going through. There's so much of a struggle with maintaining a healthy lifestyle and the options that are out there for kids, whether it's from what they're putting in their body or on their body. Who knows what is in this makeup and all this other stuff. So anyways, I'll go ahead. I get upset.
No, I agree. So anyway, so it was little things, but I did notice inflammation. I've always been very thin, and I did notice like the scale was going up like 10 pounds, but then it would go down. And even my girlfriends from high school, I was always kind of teased, like always so tall and skinny. And they even said, wow, you've been packing it away. Cause I could always like just kind of eat anything I wanted and I'd never gain weight.
Yeah.
And I always said, yeah, right. It is kind of weird. But again, you wouldn't have even thought anything of it. So fast forward, I was in a minor fender bender in 2011.
Okay.
A gentleman hit me. It was no more than 10 miles an hour. Really no big deal. I had been in a terrible car accident in 2001 prior to getting implants.
Okay.
But see, this is what we know now. If you're looking at the body holistically, an accident of that impact, right? That's going to like lower my immunity, right? It's going to make me more vulnerable. And then you're putting something like having a major surgery, putting implants in, something else that's going to further. So, my hormones obviously were out of whack, probably from that car accident. My immune was already suppressed. Now you're putting in breast implants that we already know. I have an article from New York, the New York Times from 94, I think, that even say breast implants and what they do to the immune system. We already know, and then doctors will even agree to this, that they disrupt your hormones. So now you're further doing it to somebody who already is vulnerable. Okay, so now we already know they're continuing to disrupt my hormones because I'm having signs of that. So now, moving along, we see inflammation happening,
Yep.
have a little minor fender bender. I mean, your body can only take so much, right? We all have a tipping point. So now the pain in my body, because now the inflammation's probably just like boom. It was as if like you couldn't even touch me. I'm going to the chiropractor, I'm going to the spine doctor.
Yeah.
They're looking at me like, what's wrong with you? You just got hit 10 miles an hour. You know, you couldn't be in this much pain. And I'm walking around like I'm a retired football player. Like you can't even get near me.
Wow.
You know, I had that 2001 accident. So they're thinking, well, you are kind of like an eggshell kind of plaintiff type, you know, but you couldn't be in this much pain. And it didn't make sense. I would agree. So, you know, I'm rehabbing from all of that and just kind of feeling miserable. Well, then later that year, this was February, in December, I go through another, but it's more of like an emotional, stressful situation.
Okay.
And at the same time, and this is a side note that I'm not going to really get into, but I just kind of want to mention it.
Sure.
I'm working at a job where there's a lot of 5G like radiation. It's one of those offices where like you walk in, it's really like high tech, like the music comes on when you walk into the room and you can like program it to whoever is in TVs. And I just remember so vividly this one day in December where this wave of vertigo came over me and I had to brace myself on the counter. And I remember my boss like noticing and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, like I've never had that happen in my life." And this feeling in my chest that never went away until I explanted, which I now know to be like inflammation on a really massive level.
Wow.
But it's December. So you're kind of thinking, it's got to be a virus or something, right? In your chest.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, I'll be okay. But it never felt okay. So after dealing with this for like 3 weeks, I finally go to the doctor. I never go to the doctor. I never was sick before. Like I would rarely even get like a cold or the flu. Go to the doctor after 3 weeks and they say, "You have pleurisy."
What?
I said, "Pleurisy?" I said, "I don't even remember being sick though. I just remember this weird vertigo and then like this feeling in my chest." And they're like, "Yeah, you have pleurisy." I said, "Okay, how do you get rid of it?" Like, "It will just go away on its own." I'm like, "Okay, but I have never felt this." And I just kept rubbing my chest, ironically. Okay, it doesn't go away. Fast forward to April. I went to Arizona where you'd think, you know, it's dry heat, you might feel better. Worst trip, the dizzy feeling is back. So this time I decide when I land, I'm going straight to the ER. Something's wrong here. When you've never been sick in your life, it stands out to you even more when you are sick. Right. I'm like something, and I just know my body and I'm highly intuitive. I always have been. I'm a Scorpio.
Me too. What's your birthday?
You are November 13th.
I'm the 4th.
Nice.
Yeah. Happy day, Scorpio.
Yeah. Happy to you too.
Yeah. You're going to, that's why we change lives, man. You can't stop us, dude.
We always go through some sort of transformation, right? That helps us to help others.
I have these little levels of life all through my life. And it's like, I can look back and I go, yep. That's why I went through that, so I can be doing this. It's just the coolest of cool that we can have these conversations. Hey, you said something. When you have never been sick before, what did you say after that?
Oh, if you've never been sick before, that's why I feel like you notice things even more.
That's what you said. Yeah.
When you've never been sick, right?
Like, what is the heck? So you went to the emergency room.
I went to the emergency room. That episode really stood out the most to me, because I went to the emergency room, and I guess because you kind of call it, I don't know, an invisible illness.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing this so many times, and it stands out because so many women say the same thing. Everyone's looking at you at the ER, because right when you're at the ER, you're seen by so many people. I was there for maybe 8 hours at this one particular time.
Yeah.
All looking at you, and they're like, but you look too good to be as sick as you're saying.
That's right.
I kept hearing that again and again. You look too good. Okay, what does that even mean? You look too good to be this sick? Because these people have never even seen me before. So I don't even know what you mean by like, you look too good, but whatever. So it was enough, though, that at one point they had been whispering and so forth, and they called down whoever the head doctor was. And he started asking me to walk the corridor of the floor. And then I would come back and he would take my pulse. And then he'd say, do it again. I did this about 20 times.
Okay.
And finally I said, why are we doing this? And he said, because your pulse is almost like that of a dead person. But I'm looking at you and you look really healthy. And I can't figure this out. And then I was looking at him, I said, but what does this mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I can't figure out.
That's a little scary to tell me that I'm a dead person.
Well, and now after speaking to so many women, and I said this on a news piece we did, and I got a lot of women who messaged me and they said, did you have an autoimmune illness called POTS, POTS? And I said, not that I know of. And I've looked into it, and I've also now had patients who had it, and that is indicative of dizziness, especially when standing, and a really low pulse. And just from all of my experience with patients, you can have symptoms of autoimmune without actually having a diagnosis.
That's right.
It is entirely possible that I could have had some symptoms of POTS and just not known it at the time. But at any rate, I do remember one of the technicians saying, take her D-dimer count. And your D-dimer count can tell you if it's high. It could be indicative of a stroke. And think about it, I had just gotten off an airplane. So when he said that and they took my D-dimer count and it was elevated, they said immediately, she needs to go to see if she's going to have a stroke. So can you imagine? I'm by myself in the ER. My parents had just recently moved because they retired. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's it. What else could it be? I just got off a plane. This is making sense. I've never felt this way before. Maybe I'm going to have a stroke.
It sounds like a stroke, right?
Right? I don't know how this happened, how I went from being such a healthy person to this, but it's going to change my life, right?
Yeah.
So you go and you're just so nervous and you don't have anyone with you, but then they do all the testing and they say, no, everything looks great. And it's almost, the sad thing is, you want to find that something's wrong.
That's
like
right.
You're so frustrated.
That's right.
And this was only 6 months into my journey.
I spent $45,000 in testing in about 6 months before I ever found anything. Well, they never found anything. It was always negative. And it was always like you wanted to cry when it was negative. It was like, no. Like, no, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I used to look at myself in the mirror. I had Meniere's disease, which is vertigo, ear ringing, and deafness. Oh. And I would look at myself in the mirror and just be like, but you look so healthy. Like, there's got to be, I would really like, this is just corny, but I would look at like deep inside my eyes and be like, are you sick in there? Like, how are you sick? Like, you look great. But you feel like you want to die. And wow,
I would
man.
Say to my mom, I would say to my mom, Mom, I think I'm dying. I mean, how awful is that to say to and especially my mom? She's my best friend, and she was with me through this whole experience. She was the one with me Googling every day, all night, all weekend, trying to figure this out, because we became our own detectives. I was like, I have to, no one else is going to help me. I have to figure this out. And I said this to a really wonderful woman. They call her the Beverly Hills, like grande dame of natural medicine. I think she's so cute, like 93 years old. And
Cool.
I was telling her my story. She has Parkinson's. She doesn't really speak much anymore. And I told her my whole story. And when I got to the part where I said, and I was saying, I think I'm dying. And she spoke her only 2 words. And she said, you were.
Ooh.
It kind of gave me the chills. And I said to myself, I think your body tells you.
Oh.
I do. Because why else would all of these women say the same thing?
They feel like they're dying.
I mean, but at the same time, it's like, but I got up and I worked every day because I had to pay the bills. I had $300,000 that I paid out of pocket in 7 years.
Whoa.
And people think that sounds crazy.
Wow.
Look at how much you just told me you spent in
6
that
months.
show.
6 months. And it was easy. It was an easy spend. I was all on credit cards, man.
So $300,000 in between all the surgeries I had, and this is including all the surgeries because I've had 6. So it's actually not that much at all.
Wow.
To spend $1,000.
You're in the hospital. They told you
Okay,
that
so in the hospital. So we now know, okay, so at least it's not a pulmonary embolism.
Yeah.
Still, it's like that doesn't even make you, I guess it makes you feel better for the, for the moment,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make you feel better because you still have no answers. I really like this doc though in the ER because he cared, and you could tell. He called my primary care without even asking. And he said, listen, I called your primary care and I said to her, I don't know your patient, but you need to see her this week because I don't know what's going on, but something's really wrong. And I can't figure it out. And I can't keep her here any longer because we've run every test.
Yeah.
But I suggest you see her. So I go in to see my primary care.
You flew home?
No. So this was back.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I had moved back from California to be closer to my family because I thought, I didn't even know what it was. I was thinking maybe it was the smog in LA that was affecting I didn't know what it was. Anyway, so I go to my primary care and then she listens to my chest and she said, it's costochondritis. That's another inflammation of the chest wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so now it's costochondritis when they said it was pleurisy. No. I said, so why do you think? Well, so then she's just blaming it on the car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Because my seatbelt was across my chest.
Did your airbag deploy or anything?
No, because it wasn't a big accident.
It was a 10 mile per hour accident here.
See how everyone just blames it on something else. It would have, if it wasn't the car accident, it would have been something else that she blamed it on. I said, okay, so how do I get this better? Well, you need to take some steroids. So I took prednisone, which we all know you don't ever want to take a steroid unless you have to. But at this point, I'm like, okay, well, anything that's just going to get this feeling better because it feels terrible. Yeah. And it did feel like it helped, like maybe for a week or 2.
Yeah.
But then you just go back and I said, well, what else can I do? Okay, do you want to know the doctor's advice on what I should get this better? So much great advice I got over the years. Well, just don't use your chest muscles.
Okay. So, how do you not do that? Anyways.
How do you not use your chest muscles? I said, okay, so how long should I not use them for? She's like, I don't know. 4 or 6 months. Okay. I even went so far as to not work for the entire summer. This is how dedicated I was to get better. I just exercised. I just took it easy. Also, how many people can even do that? But I wanted to just get better. No, didn't work. Did not work. No. Now I'm starting to get heart palpitations that are so bad that literally I think I'm having a heart attack. So then there would be times where, I remember this hike I did at Runyon Canyon. I'll never forget it. I was in great shape. I've always worked out almost twice a day. And they were heart palpitations that were so real. And then you're telling your friend who you're hiking with, I'm like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And then they're kind of looking at you like you're joking with them. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not joking. take me to Cedars. And then you go to Cedars, and then this is their response. They look at you up and down because, I didn't have all the inflammation yet. I hadn't gained weight. So you're thin, and they're like, you're having a heart attack. Yeah, right. This is how the hospital staff speaks to you.
That's wild.
What if I really am? You're
For
going to
real.
talk that way? Because they always want to blame it on anxiety.
Yeah.
So, you spend the hours there. So long story short, this went back and forth and every test. And there would be some times where you would have a good day and it didn't feel bad. If I was drinking my green juice, I always say doing yoga, eating anti-inflammatory foods, but I didn't put together it was an inflammatory thing. I just knew that there would be days that were better than others. But boy, if I strayed off of that, and if I had anything inflammatory, sugar, went to a birthday party, whatever, had some alcohol, I'd swell up again.
Yep.
It got so bad, like I wasn't sleeping. There were times where the anxiety was so bad, like I couldn't even go to the grocery store. Just like the most simple of tasks seemed like too overwhelming for me. I didn't make the best choices. I remember I didn't even like wine before this, but like a glass of wine or two at night, that sounded like it would relax my anxiety.
Right.
That's the worst thing I could have been doing. So I just share with women now, hey, I get it, whatever you have to do to pacify yourself, but your liver is already like going through so much. Like if anything, detox your liver more. Don't add to the toxic load it's already going through.
That's good.
So I always say, like, if I write a book, it's going to be titled, Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. And I like to be really honest with that because I feel like that's too the like purpose of my Instagram. If I were to get on there and just be like, I've always eaten perfectly and done everything just right, that's so annoying to me. you know,
totally.
No, learn from me. I didn't do everything just right. And if I can change my life and do things right or better anyway now, so can you.
That's right. That's so good. So at what point did you really discover it's breast implant illness?
Okay, so getting to that. So this is it. This is the capper. So now it's 2017. Okay. Again, I'm just kind of thinking like, am I ever going to get better?
Yeah.
I never gave up hope though. I will say there was always in the future, I could see myself better. I could see myself like looking back and saying like, wow, there was like the rainbow at the end of this, but I just couldn't see how I was going to get there or when. Good. Working for a surgeon who primarily did breasts, ironically, and Crystal Hefner comes out in the news, People magazine. I remember this so vividly, summer of 2017. Everything that she's saying, all of her symptoms sound exactly like me. Which now, when all these women speak, we all have the same exact story, same symptoms. I feel like I'm dying. Like it's like verbatim, we're saying the same story. I've gone to 1 million doctors. I've been treated the same way. And I literally looked at my boss at the time and said, I had like total body, like all goosebumps. And I said, oh my goodness, that woman sounds just like me. Is that what's wrong? My implants, I need to take them out. And he said to me, Amanda, that woman sounds crazy. And any woman saying that her breast implants are making her sick are crazy.
Wow.
So a man that I respected at the time, and it's interesting because there would be things later on that would come out with this particular boss that I would realize that he really didn't have the integrity that I thought he did. But at the time, I respected him. I had no reason not to.
Sure.
Primarily breasts. Who's better to ask than him? And I was making him a lot of money.
Totally.
We had a great relationship. He had no reason not to have my best interest at heart. And he knew that I hadn't been feeling well.
Right.
All he had to say was, well, there has been an illness that women have said.
You could have recognized it.
Yeah, that's it. And it's called this. You could look into it. And it's my bad. I should have looked into it anyway. I shouldn't have just taken his word for it, but I didn't. So that would be some advice I would give to a woman. Don't take just one person's opinion. Look into it.
Yep.
So I didn't look into it. So that cost me another year and a half.
Okay.
And that's okay. It was just not, it was an opportunity to wake up.
Yeah.
That I didn't happen to take that particular path. And that's okay. So it took another year and a half. And I had another opportunity to wake up. So I went for a colonic with a new woman who I hadn't gone to, and didn't even get into it. Just that I hadn't been feeling well. I had very swollen legs. That was a physical sign, because remember, I told you this is can be an invisible illness, but this was a physical sign that I liked to show practitioners, because I'm like, I'm a dancer. I have very lean legs, but for whatever reason, I would say like my lymphatic system is congested. Doctors would be very quick to say, well, you're too young for lymphatic cancer. And I'd say, never said cancer.
That's good. That's good.
Said my lymphatic system is congested.
Yep.
And, I found out on this journey because I learned from German doctors, because I decided, I want to learn from the best, and German doctors are light years ahead of us.
Yeah, they are.
The lymphatic system, our doctors here don't even really necessarily learn about. And I'm like, that's my favorite system in the body. I just think it's amazing. This is what carries toxins out of the body. If it's not working properly, you've got problems. So why we don't spend more time on it, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But, and I've taken thermography that shows that the underarms, collarbone, and pelvis are usually red and inflamed when you have breast implants. So you only have so many detox pathways in your body, and if they're clogged, you're not properly detoxing.
So on thermography, you would know if I guess you would. Well, let me ask this question: do all women with breast implants have problems? Some problem?
Not that some women who have breast implants will say, no, I feel great. I don't have any issues that I am aware of.
Gotcha. But they may also have anxiety that's medicated. They also may have who knows what, but they're just not targeting it. I mean, I guess that's a tough question to ask about all, but I would say that most women do. You've got a foreign body in your body. You got a foreign body in your body.
I could say that I've spoken with them, like I said, who have implants, but say maybe they have digestive issues, but they are not tying it to the implants. And nor could I say that that's necessarily caused by the implants. They could have had digestive issues before they got implants.
Totally.
They could have Hashimoto's before they had implants. So I'm not going to sit here and say everything's caused. I mean, for a while there, it's like I stubbed my toe. It's my breast implants. Like I'm not trying to blame everything on implants. Okay. And I'm also not saying just because they didn't work out for me, I don't want them to work out for other women.
That's good.
I'm not that girl. Hey, it doesn't matter to me who does what with their bodies. I'm just saying I'm here to support women if you've had the same reaction.
Yep. So you popped up red on a thermography scan.
I did because I wanted to see the inflammation in my body and how it got better. Yep. Also, I got neuropathy, which means I lost the feeling in my legs. And that is another another symptom that so many of my patients have in their arms, in their face. Bell's palsy, very common. Luckily, all the women I've worked with, the neuropathy has gotten better.
That's incredible that you're dealing with this.
Yeah. So when I had my thermography, the woman said, well, should we just do your legs too while we're at it? Because I said, oh, sure. She's doing the photo and she's like, wait a minute, let me take that again. And I said, okay. And she's like, we need to take it one more time. And I said, why, what's going on? She's like, oh, because I took the photo. And she said, but there must be something wrong with the camera. And I said, why? And she said, because the photo, your legs are completely purple. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, that means no circulation. And I said, but I told you that I don't have any feeling in them. And your circulatory system is directly linked with your lymphatic system.
Interesting.
And that's scary when you're having surgery the next week.
Yeah.
Right. And I just thought, but I thought if I don't get the implants out, I'm not going to know if I'm going to get better.
So the breast implant decision was really yours and yours alone. You hadn't been, you weren't, you had done your research. You weren't necessarily consulted about or had an advocate that said, hey, you should get these out. That was, you were your own advocate. Is that true?
Right. So I went for the colonic and I had just said, like I'm having some swelling. I didn't really get into how long I'd been sick, but at the end of that session, the woman said to me, she goes, I know why you're not feeling well. She was very intuitive. And I said, oh, okay. Why? Just kind of, humoring her. And she said, really matter of factly, it's your breast implants. And I said, did you see what I do for a living? I wasn't trying to be condescending, but, and she said, yeah. And I said, and I'm not thinking of the Crystal Hefner story at the time.
Good.
And I said, I have not heard of this, like I don't have any patients, because I never had any women coming in saying that they were sick from their implants. And she said, well, I've had 11 women who've laid here on this table and they look and they sound just like you. And when they get their implants out, they get better. Ooh. And so I've seen this from so many women that I talk to. You are in shock and in denial. It's not like you're just like, oh, okay, let me go take them out. But I would say that that was the beginning of my awakening. And then it was like, I was supposed to start, because every day after that, it was some big sign. There was a billboard that said something about France banning implants a couple of days later. Then a guy friend of mine called me. He's like, how are you? I said, I'm not feeling well still. And he said, you sound just like my neighbor. You should call her. Call his neighbor, who I don't even know. And I'm telling her how I'm feeling. She's like, it's your breast implants. I'm like, why are you saying this too? And she said, because it happened to me. And they've been out now 3 years and I'm getting better. Then I go, don't judge, to get Botox. Okay. And I trust that doctor. I really love him. And he's really a funny guy. Sure. And as he's getting my Botox ready, I'm like, oh, you'll never believe what they think is wrong now. Because, you're kind of wanting someone to talk you out of it. Yeah. And he's like, what? And as he's getting it ready, I said, oh, they think it's my breast implants making me sick. And I remember the look on his face. He got so serious. Yeah. And he wheeled his little stool over to me and he looked at me and he said, Amanda, if that's what you think this is, you need to get those out immediately. I know 6 women of my patients who just got them out. And for him to be that serious, I said, okay, I will make the appointments immediately. So I make appointments with 3 of the most prestigious breast surgeons in Beverly Hills, because I'm thinking, well, this is maybe kind of resonating with me. I've tried everything else. Yeah. I've spent so much money. Yep. When you're that sick, you do not care what it's going to look like. And for me, I can really say, working in the industry, obviously I care about aesthetics, and I've seen some of the best. I had a deformity. There is part of you that's thinking, am I going to look like maybe how I started? But then I'm thinking, okay, God is not going to bring me right back to the place I began. It doesn't work that way.
That's good.
I don't believe that. He's not going to put me through all of this just to bring me back to where I started. No. And so I make those consults. Here's the crazy part. This is the craziest part. This is only just 3 years ago. It's exactly 3 years ago this month. Those first 3 surgeons sounded just like my old boss. They looked at me and said, and I, by the way, had been in a Facebook support group that now has 150,000 women in it. But at the time, I don't know, it had like 50 to 70,000 women in it, all who sounded like me, all who were getting them out and feeling better.
Wow.
And they looked at me and they said, this is not real. These women are making it up. They're crazy. They're all crazy.
They
Don't
really
listen.
said that to you. They were telling you that people were just lying about it.
Swear that these women who do not know each other, who are all over the world, have all made up the same subset of symptoms, the same story, are risking mutilating or deforming themselves and having scars across their chest, paying for it out of pocket because this is not covered by insurance.
Totally.
There's no win at the end of it, right? Aside from you getting obviously your health back, which is the biggest win in the world. But it's not like you can sue. You can't sue these companies. So what would exactly be the benefit of any of these women lying about this? There is no benefit. There's no reason for us to go through this. Trust me.
I think that's how the medical system's trained, though, too. I think that's how they do this in schools. I think they train people to they're authoritarian. It's legit. So it's an authoritarian system that you're not supposed to be telling the doctor what might be wrong with you. The doctor is supposed to tell you what's wrong with you. And this is the whole problem with medicine in the first place, is that there's like you're not my king. We're supposed to be in relationship. In fact, as a doctor, I'm supposed to continue to learn and to teach you, to docere you back into health. And that's the kind of stuff that gets me just fired up. That's ridiculous that somebody would say that. So, and now they have a support group, huh?
Oh, well, just on Facebook alone, I believe there are 246 groups just on breast implant illness, just on this one subject. So bottom line, and the surgeons say, and we're not going to even take them out of you. I said, you're not going to take them out? They said, because there's nothing wrong with them. I said, but I just want them out. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be deformed. They're telling the one who was deformed, you're going to be deformed again. Like, talk about mental anguish. I looked at each of them and I said, you let me worry about what it's going to look like, because I cannot feel like this anymore. And, honestly, I wouldn't have wanted them to take them out because they weren't listening to me. They weren't acknowledging me. And I just knew that they weren't for me. And that's why I'm doing also what I'm doing, because I want to empower women, because another woman may not have had the wherewithal that I did in that moment, right? They would have been discouraged and said, oh, they're right. Maybe it's not my implants. I'll just leave them in.
That's right.
I hear it every day. I hear it a lot from nurses too, who say, oh, my colleagues say, well, we know you're sick, but whatever it is, it's 150% not your implants. So they don't remove them and they stay sick for years, happen upon removing them years later, only to get better.
Wow.
They could have done it years later. So that's just also why I'm doing it, because I want to empower women. Think for yourself. Don't let anyone tell you. So I walk out of all of those. And this is also another huge takeaway. I did something I'd never done before. And I went home and I prayed. I've always believed in God, always. And I've also always lived my life thinking God is always watching. And I try to live my life like that. I've not lived a perfect life by any means, but I do try to live my life as if he's always watching. And I, though, didn't understand prayer. I always thought prayer was asking for something. And I thought, I'm saving my prayers for when I have a sick family member or I really need them. And I thought, I really need this. I need it this time. I mean, I was on my knees. And I do think that in life, we all have that moment where we're brought to our knees. And that is what I mean when I say trials and tribulations, or your 7-year, right?
Yeah, that's really
good. Years of darkness.
Yeah, I like that.
So that was my moment that brought me to my knees. And I said, God, and I don't even know how I had the wherewithal to say it, but I said, God, if you lead me to the surgeon who will agree to remove these, I'm even going to put all my faith in you. This is surrender, by the way, which I've never been able to do in my life because I'm a control freak and I don't know how to give up control and give it to God. So when they say, like, what's that great saying? Let go, let God.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing in that moment.
That's good.
So I said, I even bet they're going to look great. And that's a big statement. If you've had a deformity and you're like just saying like, I wouldn't even believe it's going to look great. What a freeing moment that was. So I think maybe 2 days later, I Googled again, explant Beverly Hills, and Dr. Kevin Brenner popped up. I didn't know him, but it felt familiar for some reason.
Yeah.
Made the appointment, told him the whole same story. You know, his reaction, Amanda, I think it's time that we take these out and we leave them out.
Oh.
There was no, or we could replace them. There was no, you're going to be deformed though. None of that. I almost fell off my chair. I said, oh my gosh, so you actually have integrity.
Yeah.
You're my surgeon. And he happens to be a reconstructive specialist, which now we realize is what you really need for this surgery, which you don't hear, they never talked about, because when you're taking it out, you don't just plop them out like you can plop them in.
Yeah.
That the implant can leave an indentation like in the tissue, which is what happened to me.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, very precise surgery that, like anything, practice makes perfect. And you can be an amazing plastic surgeon, but that doesn't mean you're an amazing explant surgeon, because they don't do as many explant surgeries as they do putting them in and replacing them. They just
good.
don't.
That's really good.
So
a miracle happened, and you met the dream doctor.
Yes.
You got the surgery.
Yes.
When did you know that it was right? Did you know immediately?
I didn't know immediately. The first sign was that I was sleeping.
Amen.
From right after surgery.
Good. That's cool.
I hadn't slept through the night, I would say, for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And when you're not sleeping, you want to lose your mind.
Yeah.
So the sleeping.
And if you're not sleeping, you're not healing.
Exactly.
That's good.
You're a mess. So sleeping was my first sign.
It's been 3 years.
3 years next month.
Are you completely better?
I think so. And I actually think I'm healthier than I was even before implants, and definitely mentally and spiritually, for sure. Because explant, and I just think chronic illness is an opportunity for you to heal on a spiritual and emotional level, if you so choose to. And I think what you put into it is what you get out of it. You can just explant, sure. Or you can explant and you can like really take it as an opportunity to heal. And that's what I do. And I'll be doing that for the rest of my life. It's never going to be like, oh, I'm done healing. I'm always continuing.
This is a beautiful story. You know, it's really just started too. It's just started being written.
It started. That's the beauty of it. Like, this is just beginning. Women are having the same experience.
I'm so thankful that I got sick so that I could get better, so that I could help other people get better.
100. You know that I say this every day, and I hope that people realize how sincere I am with this. And it's a hard thing for me to say, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I would go through it again.
Bless you.
Even though it was, oof. You see, every time I say it, like I actually get tears in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm a little teared. This is like a tearful conversation. I was about to say that.
Because it was really dark and it was really hard. But if it meant being able to help all of these women and hold their hands, I'd go through it again.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
You wrote on your Instagram, the only chip going into my body is going to have queso on it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That was a good one.
I want to ask you this, and I think this is important for everything, especially what we've been going through the last couple of years, is that FDA approved doesn't mean what you think it is.
Yeah.
what does FDA approved mean? Like, why when if I use something that's FDA approved, I should, when I hear that word, I hear safe and effective, I hear, less side effects or whatever. I should have confidence that I'm going to do this thing and be okay after it, right? But breast implants are FDA approved, right? What you just told me a few minutes ago is silicone implants are now reapproved. Is that true?
This is all I'll say on that is I thought the same as you. FDA approved, that's the governing body that makes sure that everything is safe, correct?
Yeah.
After the moratorium on breast implants, when they were pulled from the market for that time, there was a study that everyone refers to when they say, no, breast implants were safe and they were put back on the market. All those, the ones that I got inside my body, right, were the first ones that went back on the market. And as advocates, we see all of these studies. And I mean, all I will say is the study that put them back on the market, the silicone ones, nobody can seem to find.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
I'll just leave it at that.
So, and this will be, and so we're running over just a little bit, which is fine. I really have enjoyed this conversation, man. It's not often that I get to tear up a little bit during a conversation, but man, your journey seems so much like my journey, and just like, man, I'm so thankful that you're out of it and that you're helping people and healing people. You talked about the covering of these a few minutes ago, it's not necessarily what's on the inside of the implant, it's on the outside of the implant.
Well, it's the shell of the implant. So I want to make that clear. So the shell of both silicone and saline implants are made up of the same chemical compound.
Okay.
The same. Now, if you had a rupture, of course you would want the saline ones, because then saline would get into your chest cavity.
Oh my Lord.
Silicone, right? I mean, because that's a mess to clean up. But as far as the chemicals and the heavy metals, both the same. And so that's too why we need better informed consent, because women were not informed of this.
And informed consent is not reading a paper, signing a paper. Informed consent is a conversation that you know the risk and you know the benefits, and that you are making a decision based on your understanding. This is a Nuremberg Code thing, primary number 1, informed consent. We're the American medical system is having a really hard time with this concept.
Yes, they are. And it cannot be made under duress. That's the other thing that I want to point out.
Yeah, it can't be under pressure.
Right.
So once again, you've been listening to Dr. Jake at Victory Health Radio and victoryhealthtv.com. I've been here with Amanda Porta, the holistic health beauty coach. Once again, I'm gonna put you on a couple places. And I did go and follow Dr. Kevin. Dr. Brenner. It's at Kevin Brenner. That's BRENNERMD. There's a video on there of him pulling one of these implants out and cutting the implant, and it's really cool. And then there's another video on there with him just having a conversation about to a woman. She had an explant, and then she had a reconstruction, and you could just tell that the way that she looked. You probably know her. That she had a black shirt on. Anyways.
Yeah.
You could just tell by her demeanor that she was really comfortable in the place that you guys are doing what you're doing. And so I really want to encourage people to, if you're out there, then get there. And if you have any questions, then this would be the woman to connect with. So the holistic beauty coach, you're awesome.
You're awesome too, Dr. Jake.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.